Hey there, welcome back to another video. This time around, it is my review of the 2013 drama film Captain Phillips. Now, Captain Phillips is one of those films that, in all honesty, I just never really got around to watching until recently. I knew of it. I definitely was aware that Tom Hanks got some accolades for his performance in this. I know that it has spawned a pretty popular meme. Look at me. I am the captain now. And that was something that definitely I was quite aware of because the meme was like everywhere and it's still being used today. In fact, I was on like a Portland Trailblazers subreddit and the meme popped up. So it's one of those films where yeah, I knew what it was about, and I was curious about seeing it someday because of the plot, and also because of Tom Hanks, who I am a big fan of. He's honestly one of my favorite actors, but it just didn't wind up on my watch list or near the top. And after watching it, yeah, I mean, I can kind of see why I skipped this after all these years. This is not a bad movie by any means. It's got a incredible performance by Tom Hanks in it, but I just thought it was all right. And I think a lot of it just has to do with the story itself. I don't think the story itself, there's really enough there for a movie that's over 2 hours. Now, before I get around to sharing more of my thoughts on the film, though, I would like to give a special shout out to Phil for requesting this review. And if there is another film, TV show, or topic that you would like to see me discuss in the future, feel free to donate to either my PayPal, my Patreon, or my Cash App. The links to all three are in the video description down below, and I will try to get to your requests as soon as I possibly can. Captain Phillips is directed by Paul Greengrass, and he's never really been a director that I was that enamored with, even with his most popular films like the Bourne movies that he directed. But I would say his direction was pretty solid here. I think he did a strong, uh, decent enough job directing this movie. It's a film that has a lot of shots that, in my opinion, are definitely trying to go more for realism. So there's a lot of direction in this that isn't really super dynamic or super interesting in terms of the camera angles or the perspectives or the different kind of camera techniques. But when it really needs to provide the tension and suspense and to really put you in the middle of such a harrowing and gripping and just genuinely rough experience, like the one that Captain Phillips and his crew went through when their ship was hijacked by pirates, and especially Captain Phillips when he was taken hostage in this lifeboat. Greengrass does a great job when it comes to those sequences. That really emphasizing the claustrophobia, emphasizing the sense of fear and hopelessness as the situation gets worse and worse, involving Captain Phillips and the pirates in the lifeboat. I mean, by the end of it, it was one of those things where you were genuinely wondering whether or not you're going to see everybody die. Like, it wasn't one of those things where, oh yeah, the pirates are gonna die for sure, but you were also wondering whether or not you're gonna see Captain Phillips get shot in the head. Like, it was that kind of thing. And I didn't know the entirety of the story, so I wasn't completely aware of how it was going to end prior to going into the film. So that really made the tension all the more palpable when it comes to the film's climax. But there's a lot of this movie visually that it isn't really that compelling. It isn't something that's going to blow you away, wow you, surprise you that much when it comes to the visuals or the style of the director. In fact, the style that Greengrass uses here is the same kind of style you've seen with a ton of other similar based on a true story films, thrillers from back in the day, or from this particular time period in the 2010s. It just not really that special, but still effective and still good in its own right. For what this kind of film is, I don't think it really needed anything too fancy or too flashy when it comes to the direction. The screenplay is by Billy Ray, and no, it's not by Billy Ray Cyrus. Um, Thankfully, this movie would have been so much worse if he happened to write this movie, or isn't by Billy Ray from TNA either. Bully Ray. This is from the same guy who wrote Color of Night and one of the Hunger Games movies, and Richard Jewell. And the script, it takes a lot of creative liberties from the actual story in terms of what actually happened with Captain Phillips. I didn't know about this until after I already saw the movie, but I can definitely see how some people would look at this movie now and be like, well, Captain Phillips is a coward and he was partly responsible for what happened because of his incompetence. And the way that this script portrays Captain Phillips is if he's some heroic figure who was trying to do everything right and then everything still went wrong, and he was willing to sacrifice himself for his crew, and there's just a lot of stuff in this script that never happened. But if I just look at it as a story and I'm not really trying to judge it based on its authenticity, it's not a bad story. I think it does have a compelling enough hook to it in terms of this shipping container delivery ship that winds up getting hijacked by pirates in Somalia, or near Somalia. Like they're not actually there yet, but they're around Somalia. And so they're in the area where there's a lot of pirate activity. And this is also one of those movies that the story, it starts out focusing on Captain Phillips. You see him with his wife, and she kisses him goodbye. He winds up going on his next mission, which is to captain this ship. And they're supposed to deliver some uh, payload, and they wind up being targeted by these pirates. The pirates get on board despite their best efforts to try to get them to go away, and the pirates wind up hijacking the ship. But the crew is hiding in the engine room, and the captain's trying to distract the pirates in order for the crew to survive. And the crew also has to find a way to shut the power off so the pirates won't see them when they're hiding in the engine room. And so there definitely is some suspense and some tension throughout these scenes. Uh, but I can't even give the writer credit for what is arguably the most memorable moment in the entire script, at least when it comes to the dialogue, which is the moment where the pirate captain, he just does the whole thing where he goes, you know, I am the captain now. Like that was improvised by the actor who played that character, who played Muse. So without that contribution by the actor Abdi, you never would have had that iconic moment. You wouldn't have the memes either, and that would have sucked. Uh, so that improvisation definitely makes this film better. But there's just a lot of stuff with the script where it's just very just eh. Especially while the crew is trying to hide from the pirates, and the pirates have hijacked the ship, and it just gets kind of boring. There's not a lot happening. People just hiding around, a bunch of talking. Uh, um, the captain trying to distract the pirates. One of the pirates steps on some glass, and it's trying to ratchet up the tension with, the stuff with the pirates with weapons and being all testy. But I don't know, it never really felt like something where I was really glued to my seat while watching these sequences. The film started to get to that point, though, when Captain Phillips is essentially kidnapped and taken on board the lifeboat along with the rest of the pirates. And then it's just this claustrophobic nightmare with these pirates who are running low on water and are overheated and are just ready to kill each other and Captain Phillips. And there's this whole escalation with the Navy and the SEALs, and in terms of, okay, we're going to try to get through this situation peacefully, but if we can't, the SEALs are going to come in, and we're going to take extreme measures, and we'll do whatever we can to return Captain Phillips back home, and whatever they can winds up being a pretty bloody and intense sequence to conclude the film, where Captain Phillips is about to get shot by the pirates, and the pirates wind up getting shot themselves by some snipers. And the way that that was set up was brutal. And I will give the script credit for moments like the end, which was also another improvisation bit, which I mean, I I I think that was in the script, but the way that Tom Hanks played it was not in the script. So a lot of the best aspects of that scene where Captain Phillips is being treated by a Navy medical officer, and she's treating him, and I think she's a corpsman, and she's treating him, and he's in shock. Most of that entire scene is improvised by Tom Hanks. So how much of it is actually in the script, I don't know for sure. But really, the power of that scene is due to Tom and due to his work in that sequence, and it's not really due to what the writer provided. The writer is trying to, I mean, provide some depth to I almost want to call them terrorists, but they might as well be, but they're not. I mean, they're willing to take hostages and try to get money. So I mean, it's not much of a stretch, but they're pirates, and it's trying to humanize them and make you kind of sympathetic towards them to a certain point. And I did appreciate that because it did a pretty good job in terms of making you understand their desperation and why they're willing to do all of this and go as far as they're willing to go. But at the same time, I think it didn't go far enough. Like, okay, you see a little bit early on in terms of, oh, you got to get money and you got to do this and you got to get another boat or we're going to do something, but you don't see them do anything. Like, if you really want to make the point very clear that these Somalians are willing to sacrifice anything and everything in order to hijack this ship and get money for their bosses, then you need to show an unflinching view of the kind of violence and the kind of degradation that they deal with when it comes to their bosses. And it doesn't really go there. It plays it a little too safe. And when it's trying to set up, oh, it's just business, or, hey, we're doing this for our bosses, and, we want to go to America, and we want to do all these other things, and, everything's going to be okay, if you just play along and no games. And it's trying to make it into something where, oh, these pirates, they're not evil people. They're more complex. And it just does a bad job in terms of showing why they're willing to be as desperate as they are, why they're willing to go as far as they're willing to go, and why they're not willing to stop beyond just their own ego and pride. It actually shows more in terms of the Navy, the military, trying to go to all these lengths to not use deadly force. So it actually goes more in depth on that than it does the kind of environment and the kind of experiences that these pirates experience on their daily lives. Just barely touches upon that. And I think that was a mistake. And you can do it in a way that still doesn't make them sympathetic. Because I still don't feel that way even by the end of the story and by the end of the film. I still feel like, they made their bed and now they got to lie in it. Like, okay, you fucked around and now you're about to find out. Like that's really exactly what happens with the pirates in Captain Phillips. But I also have to admit, I would have liked to have seen Captain Phillips's wife involved more, see her reactions to things, see him come back and reunite with her instead of this boring shot of just ships on the ocean and then end credits. Like I know apparently there were more scenes shot with Catherine Keener's character, and I'm like, okay, why not at least have the reunion at the end? Instead, it's just a text crawl that's like Captain Phillips reunited with his wife, and he went back to being captain of a ship a year later. And I'm like, okay, all right, but maybe show that as the ending instead of what the ending was. Uh, and I get it. You want to really make the scene where he's in shock resonate. It's going to resonate either way because of the strength of Tom Hanks's performance. But yeah, it's just one of those movies where I found it to be kind of plodding, and like I said, it didn't do enough to really make me connect with the pirates on a deeper level, which is what the script was clearly trying to do, but it didn't do it well enough. Captain Phillips is the only character of the crew where I have any sort of connection with. Everyone else just feels like boring cannon fodder. I don't know barely anything about them. Half the time, I don't even know their names or even remember what their job was. Much better example of an ensemble cast, like survival movie, was the movie Deepwater Horizon. In fact, that's just a much better movie based on a true story than Captain Phillips is. And it's not talked about nearly as much. And I think that was actually a good movie. Like I actually liked that film. Captain Phillips is a film where I think it's okay. I think in large part it really comes down to the script. Like it just feels like there's 30 minutes of a story and then it's stretched out to over 2 hours. If you're gonna do that, you need to do a better job with the characterization, other than just Captain Phillips and some of the pirates. You need to really expand the scope more. Expanding the scope with some guys in an aircraft carrier and some SEALs like in the last 30 minutes is not enough of an expansion of the scope either to me. But it's still a compelling enough plot. I just don't think that it's executed well enough by the writer. Maybe he needed another writer or something to help him, or maybe the movie needed to be tighter. Maybe it needed to be an hour and 40 minutes instead of 2 hours and 10 minutes or however long it is. And maybe that's also why there was a lot of embellishing going on. Like the bit where Captain Phillips decided to go out and take a piss outside the lifeboat, but then he knocked one of the other pirates out of the boat and then jumped in the water and tried to swim away. That never happened. That was written in there to add some more tension, but that scene just clearly felt like it was fake and tacked on. There was another scene that felt very fabricated where Captain Phillips is taking a piece of paper and trying to write a note to his wife, um, saying goodbye in case something happens and he gets shot. That never happened either. That's just pure Hollywood bullshit. Um, but like I said, the concept, the core idea of the story is strong enough that you want to see how Captain Phillips is going to get rescued and how he's going to survive the situation, or how the crew is going to get the pirates off their ship. But there's not much rewatchability factor. There's not much of a reason to go back to this story again and again when you know how it ultimately culminates, and you know what happens and how it all resolves itself. I do think that there was something here, but I don't think that it really turned out to be something as genuinely complex and compelling and captivating as it could be when it comes to the script and its overall story. I think the performances are easily some of the best things about this movie. Tom Hanks does a really good job as usual. His accent is a little iffy, but he makes up for it with his bravado, with his sincerity, and also with his just sheer talent as an actor. I mean, the scene when he's in shock at the end, and even prior to that, when he is reacting after seeing and experiencing the death of all of these pirates around him who got shot to death by these snipers. It's a very visceral, very intense sequence, and Tom really sells it when it comes to his reaction to everything. It was very natural, very real. And so was the bit when he was in shock, to the point where people who actually have experienced trauma like that have had reactions to watching Tom act in that scene, where it gives them a flashback of that trauma. So that's some really great acting when people who have experienced that are feeling what the actor is emoting, even though what the actor is emoting is an act. Like, he's not actually in shock. He never actually experienced this for real, but the performance is so powerful that it actually makes people think that he's actually experiencing the symptoms of shock. The rest of the cast, I mean, I don't think they're as good, especially the crew of the Murrisk, Alabama. Catherine Keener, I can't say much about her. She was almost cut entirely out of the movie, and she has like one scene. She does a good job with the one scene, but she's in one scene. Michael Chernus, he probably has the most screen time when it comes to other members of the crew, and I thought his performance sucked. I thought he was really bad, to be perfectly honest. I was like, this guy seems like he's somebody who you'd see on a comedy sitcom or something. Like, his acting ability was not good, not at a pretty high level. I've read it. I looked up his filmography, and apparently he's gone on to do a lot better, a lot more impressive work later on in his career. But this is not a good performance to me. He just seems like they got some guy from community theater and just threw him into the cast. It doesn't help either that he has no chemistry with Tom or anybody else. Like, it's just in my opinion, a pretty poor performance, and I seem to be alone on that because I don't hear a lot of people pointing that one out. I just found every scene that he was in pretty much unbelievable because of his performance. I didn't buy him as Shane Murphy. I did not buy him in that role. The rest of the people, yeah, David Warshawski is the chief engineer, Mike, Corey Johnson is Ken, Chris Mulkey is as the senior crew member, um, and the pirates were really good too, especially Barkhad Abdi as Muse. This was a really genuinely intimidating performance, despite his smaller, thinner stature compared to others. But he made up for it with his intensity and his power and his screen presence. And he was compelling and charismatic in his own way. And the rest of the cast is good too. Barkhad Abdirahman, Jesus Christ, Barkhad Abdirahman, apologies, as Aden Bilal, and Faisal Ahmed as Noor Naji. And the rest of the pirates and allies were good too. But the main three were the ones that definitely delivered the most consistent performance out of all of those actors. The U.S. Navy also had some familiar names like Max Martini as the Dev Gru commander, um, but they were fine too. Like Yul Vasquez as Commander Castellano, the commanding officer of the Bainbridge. I would probably say he was the best one out of that crew. But in a lot of ways, it's Tom Hanks's show along with the three pirates, Abdi Rahman, and Ahmed. Now, the film also features some cinematography by Barry Ackroyd. It's not amazing, it's not awesome, but it's not awful. The editing by Christopher Rose is not what I would consider to be particularly great, but it's good enough. The music by Henry Jackman, it's not the kind of score that I would say is up there with his best, but it's still effective. It still works in terms of creating a certain kind of mood or atmosphere or feel or emotion for a given scene. And you can clearly tell, though, that a key piece of music used near the end for dramatic effect was intended to be a track from Inception, Time by Hans Zimmer, but they couldn't get the rights and they just asked Henry Jackman to create a facsimile, just to create something that sounds like a Zimmer score from Inception. And it's very obvious. And it kind of takes me out of that scene a little bit because I'm like, wait, that sounds really familiar. And if it was just reusing the score, that would be one thing. But the fact that it's just a rip-off version, that's another. But it's still a decent score for what it is. And I definitely have to give a lot of credit to the production designers and the art directors and the stunt people. Like, they did all this for real. They had a real ship on the ocean. There wasn't any CGI for the most part. So that did help when it comes to the immersion and the tension and the suspense for sure. Uh, when there is some, but there's honestly too many moments where there isn't any, and it's kind of just slow. And that kind of ties into the pacing. Like, it's not the best paced film. It is kind of slow and has too much of a lull at points. Um, but I still think it does provide some entertainment and some genuine bits of tension and suspense, but it's not what I would consider to be a tension-packed movie like other people have made it out to be. At least not to me personally. And yeah, I would say this one is all right. I had more fun with the memes than the film itself, to be perfectly honest. But yeah, that's my thoughts on Captain Phillips. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you later. See ya.